Now, one area where we seem to be having no movement to the left from the Republican side is when it comes to Obamacare, also known as the Affordable Care Act. Ted Cruz did a speech over the weekend. And during that speech, he called for cutting off all funding to Obamacare. He told conservative Christians that congressional lawmakers simply can't be counted on to do it. In other words, to gut Obamacare. And he drew a standing ovation. He was speaking at the Family Leadership Summit. He denounces Obamacare. And he said that reaction, when he was asked afterwards about the standing ovation, he said that reaction right there shows how we can win this fight. If I was sitting in the Senate cloakroom, the reaction would be fundamentally different. If we have to depend on Washington, it will never be done. This is absolutely absurd, Lewis. We've got a group of presumably Constitution-loving founding fathers, fetishists, and they're standing up and cheering a law that was passed by our democratically elected officials, upheld by the highest court in the land as constitutional, and you've got a standing ovation for wanting to go behind the backs of democracy and justice, right? The Supreme Court, and try to just not fund the thing. What happened to supporting the Constitution and the democratic process? I don't know.
I think the funniest part about this whole thing is you have a senator who is the one leading this charge.
Right.
I mean, what's more ridiculous than that?
He wants to now circumvent the democratic process that the founding fathers he always talks about and fetishizes would have approved of, and just defund it. It's amazing. It's amazing that this is going on. And I want to also add another thought to this, which is there's another layer to the irony here. Not only is it absurd that those who presumably support the Constitution and the democratic process now want to circumvent that to defund Obamacare, Christians, this is a Christian group that is ranting against basic health care for all Americans. Have they ever read the New Testament? I don't care about the New Testament. It does nothing for me. I don't need it as my moral compass. But for people who do, have they read it? Because if you did, you wouldn't be opposing just basic health care for everybody, Lewis.
Well, who knows? I mean, I think you could seriously be wondering how good that is if someone is telling you that it's going to cost you billions and trillions and gazillions of dollars and that your grandchildren won't be able to eat if this happens.
Right. If you believed the lies about Obamacare, maybe you'd be against it, even if you thought the Christian thing was to be for it. It's kind of a good point.